Hello and welcome to WeatherWise. One of the basic elements that we see on a weather map is a warm front. It seems fairly simple what it means and where it's going, but the placement of that warm front can be a real challenge to forecasters. First of all, let's talk about the elements of the warm front. As you might imagine, it represents the leading edge of warm air. That's true. Also, warm air is less dense than cold air. So as that warm air moves into any area, it'll ride up and over the top of any colder air near the surface. And the other element to consider is that the placement of the warm front is key to the placement of any showers and thunderstorms. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about a warm front that returns back to the upper Midwest. The question for meteorologists is, where will it be? Where will it end up? It oftentimes begins as, let's say, a stationary front to our south. Then usually gets a shove from the upper air winds in some way, reinforcing the warmer air to the south of us, and it starts to move north as a warm front. And a warm front, by the way, appears on a map as a red line with these little bumps. The bumps here represent the direction that the warm front is moving. So whatever side of that line the bumps are located, that's the direction of the movement of the warm front. So here comes this push of warm air. The problem is, and this is especially true in the spring and early summer, the air over Lake Michigan is very, very chilly, as you know. The water temperature is quite cold. The air above it represents a big pocket of cool air. So here's this cool air literally in the way of this warm air that is surging north. So what often happens is the northward progress of this warm front is slowed by the cold air. The warm front pushes farther north across central and western Wisconsin, where there's no Lake Michigan, but over in the eastern part of the state where we're located, that cool air over the lake will often slow down the northward progress of that cold front. So where it stops over southeast Wisconsin can be a huge forecast challenge. In fact, it can sometimes be draped just as I've got depicted here over the Chicago area up to, let's say, the western part of our viewing area, west of Waukesha over towards Watertown and then just north of Madison. So you can get warm air in parts of our viewing area, especially south and west, but colder air everywhere else. And it's along this front and just north of the front where showers and even some thunderstorms will form. We have to think about this in terms of three dimensions. So let's take a side view of the warm front. This time Chicago on the left side. Here's Milwaukee. We're facing south going this way. Let's take a situation where we have cool air that covers southeast Wisconsin and northern Illinois. Well, here comes that warm front from the south. Now remember, warm air, lighter, less dense than the cool air, so it's going to ride up and over the top of that cooler air. We call that a simple name, overrunning, because that's exactly what's happening here. The warm air is running over the top of the cool air. That lift, in and of itself, can create clouds. As the moisture is lifted, that air then rises, expands, cools, condenses out, forms clouds, and often will form showers and thunderstorms. We call that elevated convection because the thunderstorms are forming along this warm front, which is actually elevated or above the surface. So here in Milwaukee, we can have a rather chilly day or night at the surface, and yet, let's say 3, 4, 5,000 feet above us, where the warm front is located, that's where the showers and thunderstorms can fire up. The warm air may still be way out here on the left side off the map down in central and northern Illinois. Meanwhile, over Milwaukee, it could be downright chilly, and yet we're getting these big thunderstorms. That's because that warm air riding up over the cold air creates lift, elevated convection, meaning that the thunderstorms form well above the Earth's surface. So, the warm front, yes, a basic element of meteorology, but exactly where it ends up can be a challenge and obviously very tricky for forecasters. That's it for WeatherWise. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on Fox 6 News.